What is your go-to fact that blows people's minds? When it's so quiet you can hear snow falling, you're actually hearing the static discharge of the snowflake hitting the ground. It gathers the electricity while it's falling to Earth. I just learned this. There are more castles in Germany than McDonald's in the US. If you sit on a memory foam pillow and fart into it while slowly standing up, the pillow will suck the fart into the foam and store it, so when your victim lays their head down, the fart will be released to their nose. Ancient Egypt and mammoths existed at the same time. 80% of Soviet men born in 1923 died during World War II. Greenland sharks can become up to 400 years old and don't reach sexual maturity until they're 150. Sharks have been around longer than the rings of Saturn. All the botics in the world, literally every gram, is produced in a factory in Westport, Mayo, Ireland. Neptune was originally discovered as apparently inexplicable changes in the orbital path of Uranus. Because a man named Leverrier observing these alterations decided that there must be an orderly reason for it. He calculated where another planet would have to be to cause Uranus to act like that, and still keep the laws of gravitation discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. He then sent his calculations to Royal Observatory in Berlin, and the prediction was within 1 degree of its actual position. You know when you get up too fast and feel dizzy, stiffening your buttocks together stops the dizziness. As an Italian and the as it's that pepperoni actually would mean peppers in Italy and has absolutely nothing to do with thinly sliced meat. OMG usage can be traced back to 1917. Oxford University existed 250 years before the Aztecs existed. Oxford University first opened in 1096. The Aztec period was from 1345-1521. Oxford University is second only to the University of Bologna for continuous operation. George Washington died in 1799. Dinosaurs were discovered in 1824. George Washington didn't know dinosaurs existed. Moose are naturally attacked by orcas. Tamales are one of the oldest dishes on Earth still commonly eaten today. In a group of 23 random people, the probability of 2 of them sharing a birthday is over 50%. The Goonies go underground on the exact same day, Saturday, the 26th of October, 1985, as Marty travels back in time to 1955. Saturday, the 26th of October, 1985, as Marty travels back in time to 1955. There are more trees on planet Earth, 3 trillion, than there are stars in our galaxy, 800 billion. Note it says our galaxy, the Milky Way, not the entire universe. Still I find the sheer number of trees on our planet impressive. A graveyard is connected to a church while a cemetery is not. The gene for 6 fingers is dominant, 5 fingers recessive. Black apples exist. We tend to think of apples as being red. There are, of course, some popular green and yellow varieties. But do you know there are also black apples? Called black diamond apples. They are found in Tibet and are from the Huaniu family of apples, also known as Chinese red delicious. Aside from the black outer color, actually an extremely dark shade of purple, these apples look just like other red delicious apples, down to the white flesh inside. A tablespoon of oil can calm about half an acre of water. It spreads out to form a layer 1 molecule thick on top of the water. That's why oil spills are so harmful and destructive. The largest oil spill, BP, was about 61,488,636,185 tablespoons, or about 68,000 miles of damage. The Earth's crust, which is too deep for humans to drill through, much deeper than the deepest ocean, compared to the rest of the planet is similar to the skin of an apple compared to the rest of the apple. There are more ways to arrange a deck of cards than there are atoms on Earth. Adidas and Puma were made by brothers who happen to be Nazis. Whales are closer to artiodactyls, even toad-hoofed animals, than they are to seals or manatees. Whales are essentially just wet deer with extra steps. In the 1920s, Hawaiian music was the biggest selling category of sheet music. You could fit a global population on the surface of Lake Superior and each person would have 100 square feet or so. Also, the Great Lakes, in their current formation, not even as old as the oldest cities on Earth. I only have Great Lakes facts. Oh, also, the North American Great Lakes account for 20% of all surface freshwater on Earth, while the African Great Lakes account for 25%. So between those two systems you have almost half of all fresh water on Earth. If cars could drive straight up, at 60 miles per hour, it would only take an hour to get to space. In the US, the dash lines on highways are generally 10 feet long, not 2-3 like most people assume. A dog's nose is so sensitive it can detect 1 tablespoon of salt in 1 million gallons of water or about 2 Olympic-size pools. Giraffes have the same number of neck bones as humans. Almost 100% of the matter that composes plants comes from the air, not the ground. A wolverine can kill a moose. The beginning of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony sounds like this, dee-dee-dee-da. That is the Morse code representation of the letter V. V is the Roman numeral for 5. Purely coincidence, as if it was written 40 years before Morse code was invented. German chocolate cake was invented in New York by its baker Samuel German, who wanted to do his version of a Black Forest cake. Water is the ash of hydrogen. 1. Majority of gun-related deaths in the States are suicides. 2. Honey never spoils. 3. Pirates practice democracy. 4. Windshield wipers were invented by a pianist. There was one homicide recorded in New York City on the 11th of September, 2001. The official crime stats don't include the terrorist attacks because that would tremendously skew the results. A single gram of uranium contains over 20 billion calories. You can see your nose all the time. It is always within your field of view, unless you force your eyeballs to roll up as far as they go. Your brain filters it out of your perception to save resources, but if you pay explicit attention to it, as you may be doing now, it becomes obviously visible. Do not despair, though. After a brief time, you forget about it and it disappears again. In Volkswagen's official parts catalog, one of the official Volkswagen parts, with its own part number, 199398500A, is a currywurst sausage they serve to their staff in Wolfsburg, Germany. 199398500B is ketchup. The Earth is traveling through space at 2.1 million kilometers per hour, 1.3 million mph, relative to the cosmic background radiation. Which means by the time you finished reading this, you've traveled roughly 8,700 kilometers, 5,420 mi, through space. Gazelles jumpy because they think it's fun. That Sahara Desert used to be under the ocean, and you can still find seashells in the sand there. I don't know if this blows people's minds, but it's one I find very interesting. Trey Parker was on WTF a few years back and he was explaining that back in the late 90s or early 2000s Comedy Central wanted to discuss the merchandising rights to South Park. His friends told him don't really worry about the merchandise rights, just make sure you get the internet rights to your show. So he did, and the people at Comedy Central were like okay, sure, because they didn't really understand what that would become. It's the reason that he and Matt Stone were able to sell the streaming rights to Hulu and then to HBO for hundreds of millions of dollars. Trey Parker is almost a billionaire largely in part to this. When airline pilots are trained to fly a new type of jet, the first time they fly it is with paying passengers on board. All the training and testing is done in a simulator. Of course they have a lot of flight time in other airplanes and there is a specially qualified training captain in command. However, my first jet takeoff was lax-den with 68 unsuspecting passengers. Your body fats leave your body mostly via the air you exhale. Not from urine. excrement, or sweat. Some do from those three, but only a little. You can change your brain anatomy by thinking.